Sorry, cats. Probably making a bit of annoying noise with like drums and what have you like that. Oh, hello. Right, I didn't see you guys there. Okay, first moral dilemma I have. Well, actually, first apology I have. Actually going live a little bit earlier. That is because I had some other plans put out for this evening. I had a client with my counselling, and session was cancelled, so I was like, I've got some free time, so I thought I'd just jump on early and throw some shapes, because it's a school night and we've all got school tomorrow, or so we should. Second moral dilemma I have is, should I actually stay seated on my haunches, which is really killing my ankles, or there you go, or I can come up onto the stool, but that means I have to hunch forward and talk to you guys like this. Each has its pros and cons, I suppose. It's very much like anything. Let me see if I can get this camera sorted. It's a little bit wonky. Whoa. Okay, sorry, that's a bit wonky outside. Bear with. There we go. That seems to be cool. Happy days. And please excuse me as well, actually. Just got a message from my good friend, Ben. Oh, okay. Ben says hi. So, hi, Ben. Absent Ben. Ben's a regular, and today he's not able to make it because apparently he's doing his shopping. Either it's Christmas shopping or it's just grocery shopping, but he's shopping one of the two. So we wish Ben well. Shopping is a horrible, horrible thing to do. But good luck, Ben, shopping, and thank you for your kind words, as always. Other moral dilemma, I'm still yet to have a haircut, which is very much on the list of things to do. It's just trying to find the time. It's trying to find the time amongst everything else. But I managed to get my car in for its, well, I've booked my car in for its MOT, which is due the day before my birthday. So if it passes, then it's going to be a good birthday present. It's horrible because my MOTs for my car are always around at the same time as my birthdays. And I'd so like that to change. But for some reason, it just doesn't. It's always around that birthday time. So whenever it gets my birthday, and I should be like, right, okay, I'm so looking forward to my birthday now and just chilling and relaxing. That's not the case, because my car has to go in for its MOT. Am I confident about my car passing its MOT? It's a nice car. I like my car. I really, really do. It's probably one of the best cars I've actually had. It's perhaps actually after my Suzuki Swift, it actually is my best car. So I'm so hoping for it to pass. But I know there are a few things wrong with it. A few little things. But that being said, those little things kind of like are quite big things. So if there are actually any car enthusiasts out there who kind of like know what will pass an MOT and what won't, please do let me know. Because I want to be able to kind of like just cram that into my tight schedule as well. Get those sorted, because obviously I want to be able to drive. And if I can't drive, then I'm going to be very, very upset, which is not good for me. I'm going to start crying. But we're not here to talk about that. So this live stream, we're going to go back down the track, down memory lane, and we're going to talk about something called Halloween Blowjob. And it's not it's not as bad as what it sounds. It's weird, it's wacky, it's a bit of a strange thing, but it's not an overt, it's not anything sexual. I'm just going to be honest, it's nothing sexual at all, except the name. But also to help me tell the story is going to be my very own little pumpkin. Yeah, I've got a bigger pumpkin which is actually outside, which I've yet to carve. So I'll probably do that maybe tomorrow, being Halloween. But I have got myself this little pumpkin here just because I saw it on the shelf, like 99p, and I'm like, why not? It's cool, it's cute. I could still share the Halloween spirit with the mini pumpkin as well as a big pumpkin outside. So that being said, but yeah, I mean, Halloween is just around the corner. I've not seen that many Halloween. I'll start again. I've not seen that many Halloween decorations up this year as opposed to previous years. I feel as though the Halloween spirit is just dying out. People don't seem to like Halloween that much these days. But that being said, I'm here to tell you the whole Halloween BJ story. And as I said, I can't stress this enough. It's nothing bad. So if you come here expecting to hear like this really sordid, horrible story about debauchery and legs, lingerie, stuff, then sorry, you've come to the wrong place. It's not that kind of story. Okay, so this story. To understand this story, we need to go all the way back down the time tunnel to, I think, 2005. Now, 2005, I was in college. At college, I was doing ethics, I was doing philosophy, and I was doing sociology. I loved those subjects. You know, they very much interested me at the time. And sociology, which I was doing, has been the one out of those which has kind of helped my career, or it's still been very much a part of my career going into adulthood and what I do for a living, and with my counselling, with my professional line of work as well, especially for social psychology aspect as well. A lot of sociology gets into that, but we're not here to talk about sociology. That's for another time. So I was at college doing my coursework, and this is for my A-levels. And people in England will know A-levels are the grades you get after your GCSEs. So they're basically called advanced levels, and that kind of helps determine what grade you got on your A-level, helps determine what grade you get to go to university. So I was getting loads of coursework from these three subjects: philosophy, ethics, and sociology. And this being 2005, it was a we had a family computer, but it was a very, very old family computer. It's not like the cool fancy stuff you have now, or even the bashed up laptop, which I've got now. It was just an old clunky box, basically, but it was cool. At the time, it was state of the art, and I kind of liked that. But when I came to do my coursework, I used to go onto this computer and bash away at these assignments, these homework assignments I was given for sociology, writing these essays for philosophy, or answering these questions for the ethics classes which I was doing. And I gradually noticed as the year was going on that this computer was getting slower and slower and slower and slower. And it wasn't anything wrong with the computer itself, because at the time, like I said, it was a state-of-the-art kind of computer. So I thought, okay, it's not anything technical wrong with this computer, but it's something, maybe too much information has been stored on this computer, like downloads and all this kind of stuff. So I decided to clean it. I was going to go through all the drives and folders and files and basically get rid of anything which didn't need to be there. So I checked my folder first, and all it had was just my coursework from my sociology, philosophy, and ethics. So I was like, okay, I know there's nothing on there which is causing an issue. It's just my assignments. So I'm going to keep those there. I checked my parents' folders. Nothing. I mean, Dad didn't use a computer, so it only had like 1 or 2 documents, and they mostly related to his profession, which was airline aviation. So I was like, okay, I'll leave that. Mum never used a computer, so there was nothing in her folder. Then I came to another folder, and this folder was full to the brim of adult art. And there was loads. I mean, it was just jam-packed full of just porn, basically. And I was like, oh my God, right, this is causing the slowdown. But I was like, let's go through and start deleting these files. So going through them, like copy, paste, drag, whatever, getting rid of all these, adult art material kind of stuff. And then one video thing came up, and it was called Halloween Blowjob. And I was almost like mid click and drag with my cursor, and I saw this video title, and I stopped. And part of me was like, you need to delete that. But then another part of me was like, with a name like that, curiosity is going to kill the cat, but satisfaction is going to bring it back again. So I was like, oh, okay, so let's, just for shits and giggles, let's look at it and see what it is. So I clicked on it, and it was this video of this woman on her knees, and she had this like tassel whip, and she was flogging herself, and she was like looking up at the camera, and she was like, "Happy Halloween, everyone. I need my juices for my energy." And then she like crawled around on her hands and knees, and I was like, well, that's weird. And that was it for me. I was just like, right, okay, let's just come out of this and just delete it. And I continued my deleting spree, and I got rid of all this stuff into recycling bin, deleted recycling bin, and voila. Suddenly the computer was like triple the speed. It was like on double time basically. And I was like, well, that's great. The computer now works. I can now do all my coursework and not have to worry about things going so slow. Why am I telling you that? Is because actually the name of that video, Halloween Blowjob, it's stuck in my mind. You know, how old was I? 17, 16, 17, something like that. And to come across a name like that, it stuck. And regular viewers would generally kind of like, no, I'm a very sort of like quirky individual anyway, to put it in a nice way, I suppose. But I like things, and I'm drawn to things which are different. I'm drawn to things which are very much unique, especially things which are very unorthodox and outside the box. And for those who've actually seen my video, which I did about my very first professionally run martial arts school, I called my first professional school Shiva Soviet. I mean, that name in itself, if you watch that video, I give the backstory as to how the name Shiva Soviet came around. Basically, I was in India, and I was reading this book about Indian history, and I came across the words Shiva, which is a Hindu god, and Soviet Union in the same sentence. And this is how my mind worked at the time. It was like, right, cool, I'll take that word, and I'll take this word, I have no connection with each other whatsoever, and I'll combine them, and it will create like a new name. And Shiva Soviet, I wanted to call like a punk band or a heavy metal band or something like that. And I suppose when I found this Halloween BJ video, that stuck in my mind as well. And I thought to myself, that would be so cool for like, again, like a horror film. You're going to make a horror film about something. And you're going to call it Halloween Blowjob, obviously. Like that, Turkmen Bashi's just rolling on his back saying hello. Or you're going to like write a scary story, or you're going to write a song for Shiva Soviet rock band, and you're going to call it Halloween Blowjob. It was just one of those names which stuck. It's one of those names that you couldn't really just like let go. It had something to it. It had some like je ne sais quoi, or it had some sort of catch to it. And so it stuck with me. It stuck with me for like quite a few years. And this ties into Shiva Soviet actually, because then 2 years down the line, I went off, I finished college, still with Halloween BJ in my mind, wanting to use the term Halloween BJ for something weird, but not having the opportunity at that time. Went off to India, did my thing in India, came back from India, opened up my first school, Shiva Soviet, was teaching professionally at Shiva. But then it was getting up to September, October 2007. And I remember with Shiva Soviet, I was teaching classes which were big enough to kind of put on like a fancy dress kind of thing. And I wanted to do something for Halloween with Shiva Soviet. And many martial arts schools do, much like any other sort of like activities, many martial arts schools do stuff for Halloween. They put on like Halloween fancy dress classes or something, or they have like a fun night of where students come down to train for Halloween, but it's not like a regular lesson. It's more kind of a, let's just have fun. Let's get involved with like Halloween games or something with pumpkins and whatnot, and skeletons and bats and vampires hanging from the ceiling. Let's do something like that. And I was with Shiva Soviet, I wanted to do something similar. It's like, yeah, it's Halloween. At that time, it was my favorite season. I was like 19, still very much mental capacity of a 19-year-old. I was still a teenager. And I thought it would be a cool thing to do something for Halloween with Shiva Soviet. So Halloween was approaching, and I was thinking to myself, what kind of name can I give to Shiva Soviet's first Halloween event? And as it turned out, it was actually Shiva Soviet's only Halloween event that we did. Didn't know of it at the time. But I wanted to do something for it, and I was racking my brains for names. And many of these martial arts schools, they just give what I considered stupid names for the Halloween stuff. They were giving them names like Sensei Bob's Spooky Bonanza, or Spooktacular Fantastic Fancy Dress, or some silly names like this. Really, really rootless, boring, monotonous, mundane, cliched kind of names. And I remember Shiva Soviet, I was like, you know what I could call it? And it's almost like a Freudian suppressed memory came from the back of my mind to my frontal lobe. And I was like, you could call your Halloween event Halloween Blowjob. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what, that kind of makes sense. So I could. But I was quite careful as well, because all the students that I had at Shiva Soviet at the time were late teens going up into like early 30s. So it was very much like it was an adult class. By this stage at Shiva, I was only teaching adults. I didn't want to teach kids. I did have a few kids students. Again, I detail this in the Shiva Soviet story. But by this time, I decided I just wanted to teach adults. That was where my passion was. I think he wants to go out. Bear with. So, Beshi. Hold on. Oh, let's see what he wants to do. Where'd it go? Okay. Enjoy. Punch tail. Oh, punch tail. So that leaves, how many cats are in here? 1, 2, I think it's just 2. That's fine. Where were we? Yeah, so I was only teaching adults, so, and everybody there kind of had the same sort of adult sense of humor. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Let's call it Halloween Blowjob, because we're not going to risk offending minors or anything like that. So, and us being adults, we all kind of like had that same sense of humor, as I just said. So I put it out to the Shiva Soviet group. I was like, right, we're going to do a Halloween fancy dress event. It's going to be called Halloween Blowjob, with only me knowing the backstory of where this name even came from. And nobody questioned it. Nobody in the team or the school of Shiva Soviet questioned what Halloween BJ was, or where the name came from. A few people did giggle about it. Oh, that's a bit of a funny name. Nobody actually came up to me and said, like, why? Why are you calling it this? Where's this even come from? Nobody did that. It should have been concerning in and of itself, but didn't think about that kind of stuff at the time, I suppose. So anyway, I said, oh, everybody who's going to attend, you have to wear fancy dress. It goes without saying. It's a Halloween event. You can't get away from a Halloween event and not wear a fancy dress. And it was quite a big turnout, actually. I myself went as some sort of like cyberpunk goth. And I think that's just because I could then get away with not really wearing a fancy dress, like a typical archetypical Halloween fancy dress. I was still very much like into goth kind of stuff at the time. I hadn't grown out of that whole goth aesthetic, thrash metal punk kind of thing. So I went wearing these combat camo shorts, these big army boots, or not even army boots, just these big black boots which came up to my knee. I had this strange studded waistcoat, industrial waistcoat thing, fingerless motorbike gloves with studs. I had bangles down my arms with studs as well, had black eyeliner. I even dyed my hair for it. I had hair which was longer than I have it now, and I dyed it black. But that wasn't good enough, so I had to kind of add something else onto this as well, and I ended up getting certain items hanging from my leather belt. So I tried to trying to do kicks and stuff at this event, and I had all these things flailing all over the place. I feel very much, in retrospect, I look back at that, and people say hindsight is a wonderful thing, and yeah, hindsight is a wonderful thing. But looking back, it's like, my God, what was I thinking, or more accurately, what was I not thinking? I feel that's more accurate to say. But we had all the other students came in; they were much better prepared for it than I was. We had a guy come in dressed as a wolf. He had these big wolf mitts and a big wolf snout. And each time he moved, the snout kind of went from side to side like a dolphin's nose. It was very amusing. I mean, completely impractical, but it was funny. We had this guy in a pirate suit, but his trousers ripped right at the crotch, which, looking back, I kind of smile and laugh about, but at the time it really wasn't funny, because this guy in the lineup, at the beginning of the class, we all did our big bow in, and we were doing stretches, and his trousers ripped the crotch right at the very beginning of the class. They just weren't stretchable trousers, and he was there trying to stretch out, and I could see his bulge coming through. It was like, I don't want to see that. Please put your hands over it. What else did we have? We had a guy, I think, came as John Travolta, which is cool. We had quite a few people came as nuns and monks. Yeah, 2 girls came dressed as nuns, zombie nuns. Then we had 2 guys came dressed as zombie monks. But I don't think any of them kind of knew that they were going to be dressed up like this. So it was almost like a monk posse, so to speak. But it kind of worked. But they were wearing scream masks, and one of them had a blood pump where he was pumping it inside his chest, and it just went all red, and the blood kind of dropped. Fake blood dripped off. Yeah, I mean, that was a fun night, and the whole night was true Shiva Soviet style. Whenever I ran my lessons at Shiva, we always had a big hi-fi system, and we always used to put CDs in and play really random music. Mostly it was rock and heavy metal kind of stuff, but this one, I think we wanted to play, Halloween songs. So we put on a Halloween CD, and if I remember correctly, I think it was scratched. So he had Monster Mash trying to play, and it was just Monster Mash, which just made it even ridiculous. The whole thing was so ridiculous. And yeah, we did some training, but it was all gimmicky training, and part of the whole Halloween event thing, we had to kind of create a technique unique to Shiva Soviet, and we called it the skinny leg, where it was almost I suppose, Kyokushin words, like an inverted Mawashigeri to the outside thigh. But it involved some strange spins and jumps and stuff like that. And as you did it, you had to say skinny leg. Then there was skinny punches as well. It was so weird. And I think looking back now, we did film some of the lesson. Sadly, a lot of that footage, well, all of that footage is now lost to the test of time. I don't have access to that footage, and I don't think it's ever going to see the light of day again after all this time. But it's such a shame, because I would love to have actually looked back on that footage and just seen this small crushed up hall with 15 people in it, all dressed up in weird stuff with this scratched Halloween CD playing, jumping around, screaming, shouting, doing these weird martial arts techniques on each other. Just because. And had anybody have come in and said, what on earth's going on here? I'm the neighborhood warden. It's been brought to my attention there's noise pollution here. What the hell are you guys doing? And then he sees us, and then we're just yeah, we're having Halloween Blowjob, and he's like, what the hell? So what the hell's wrong with you guys? So that was the first Halloween Blowjob. This is what I didn't say earlier. There were five Halloween blowjobs. I appreciate how strange that sounds. But that was the first one. As if that wasn't enough, anybody would have looked at it and thought, okay, you know, you've had your fun with Halloween Blowjob name, you've given it a name, you've materialized the name to make it this fancy dress thing that you did with your martial arts school. End of story. No. I need to compose myself. I'd normally bring like I don't know, lemon water or something like that in here, and actually I kind of forgot to actually bring that, which is stupid of me. I need to refresh my mouth, refresh my throat, parched. So anybody would have thought, okay, that should have been the end of the thing. No, I still retained this Halloween Blowjob title in my head, and I thought, where can I take Halloween BJ from here? Fast forward a few years, from 2007 to 2012. So Shiva Soviet had finished. Shiva Soviet finished in 2009. Late 2009, Gemini was conceived. Different martial arts outfit, different approach, different philosophies. I'm not going to go into the details of the differences between Gemini and Shiva Soviet because they're very different, and that's probably like a video in itself for another time. But one of the competitions with Gemini, it was coming up to October 2012. And we, as a team, or me specifically, I was invited by a friend at the time, or somebody, it wasn't even a friend, it was just a martial arts contact who I knew on Facebook at the time, who was putting on a small martial arts event up in Bradford. And I didn't know this guy that well. I knew of him from being on the martial arts circuit, and I'd seen him on Facebook a few times. He was a friend on Facebook, but he was not a friend per se. I mean, I didn't know anything really about him, or other than he did karate, and he went to a few competitions. That was about as limited as my knowledge of him was. But he was putting on a small competition up in Bradford in October 2012. And he sent me a message, and he was like, hey, I'm putting on this event. You know, I understand that you're very much into your competitions with Gemini. Would you like to come along? And at the time, I was very, very heavily into martial arts competitions. And I was like, yeah, great. Just send over the details and I'll see what I can do. So at the time, Gemini was just me. But I had contacts who would often come in and be part of Gemini. It had an open door revolving membership, so to speak. And I was able to basically take people from this revolving door and say, hey, do you want to be part of Gemini at the next competition? And more often than not, they were like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. So I think that Shah Jahan wants to go out as well. Shah Jahan, go. Yeah, bye-bye. Touchdown. Oh, people leaving the party. Oh, so yeah, where was I? Okay, so I was trying to get this team together, and I reached out to an old friend who trained with me with Shiva, who was actually at the very first Halloween Blowjob in 2007. So I looked at it, you know, it kind of makes sense that he could come off to this competition in October. And I told him, he was up for it. It's like, yeah, I fancy coming off to this competition. What's it called? And I was thinking of names in my head. It's like, actually, I don't even think this competition had a name. So I said to this guy, just spur of the moment, like, it's called Halloween Blowjob. And he was like, oh, that's a cool name. Bit funny. Oh. And I remember looking and thinking, wait a minute. Back in 2007, you went to a fancy dress Halloween martial arts related thing called Halloween Blowjob. Fast forward a few years, there's a competition that I've just invited you to called Halloween Blowjob. Do you not see I might be just yanking your chain on this? But he didn't see it. So anyway, he was in. We did some like training for the Halloween Blowjob. We both wanted to do sparring. So we did quite a bit of training for that. And then it came to a few days before the competition, and I got a message from this organizer, and he was like, "Hey, do you guys have any place to stay? Have you got a hotel booked?" And I was just like, "Nah." I was so apathetic at the time. It was like, you know, I can't even be bothered to get a hotel. I was literally just going to drive us up there, and we were just going to sleep in the car. That was about as far as my ambitions went, as far as this endeavor was. And this guy was like, "No, no, no, don't do that. Come and stay around my house." And I was like, "I don't even know you." It's like, okay, so I'll stay at your house, but you've got to promise I'm not going to wake up in the morning and, I don't know, find like a severed horse head next to my face on the pillow. And he was like, "Yeah, no, it's just me and my girlfriend and our kid." And looking back now, would I do something like that now? It's like, I don't even know this guy. It's like, would I go and stay at his house, some random house? And he was a bit creepy as well. I was like, no, quite honestly, where I am now, I would not do that. And I don't think any rational-minded, healthy-minded individual would do that. But this was me back then, which is a completely different kettle of fish. Yeah, so anyway, drove up, took this guy's invitation and stayed around this guy's house. Oh, hold on. Hey, Rob, hello. I'm going to pause my speech with, I'm sick of hearing my voice, and Rob has something important to say. There's a karate association tournament 40 minutes away from me, but the adult competition starts in the morning, so I'm not going to go, especially since I would be waiting 5 hours and 1 minute of action. Whoa, that depends on how enthusiastic you are for the competition. Side note, I'm going to answer that actually, because there was one competition I did back in 2016 where it was in North Wales. So from where I am, Brighton to North Wales is about 4-hour drive, if that. So I drove all the way up to North Wales on the day of the competition, competed, won my division, drove all the way back down from North Wales back to Brighton, so another 4 hours on the road, and I had work the next day. And at that time, I didn't see anything wrong with that. I was like, it's just part and parcel of what we do. It's for bread and butter. You've got to make those kind of sacrifices. But then actually earlier this year, I did travel all the way up to Yorkshire. Again, that's like a 6-hour drive to film myself for a competition called Virtual World Championships. And that was at a Druid's Temple. And I filmed myself, submitted that to the judges, and then drove all the way back to Brighton the same day. So essentially 12 hours on the road in total. So it depends like how committed I suppose you are. And I suppose speaking, I'm not going to speak for you, Rob, or put words into your mouth, because I don't know whereabouts you are in your journey or how committed you are to competitions. But for myself now, that used to be quite common for me to do that on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. Nowadays, I don't. You know, if I saw there's a competition up in, I don't know, Scotland at this weekend, and I'm expected to attend, I make excuses and say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to enjoy my weekend doing something else. I'll go down to the beach. I'll go for a country drive and go to a country pub and have a beer or something like that. I'll do my counselling work. You know, I'd rather do that now as opposed to go to a competition. But back in the day, I would have done something like you've just described quite easily. June, July 2016 for me, it was almost every single weekend in those months I did competitions. And they weren't just like local things, they were like all over the country. You know, while I'm doing this, it's kind of like this, it's going to the north and the east and the west and all this kind of stuff. And that's just something that I just did. You know, I kind of enjoyed it at the time. I got something out of it, I suppose, memories. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, I was telling you guys about the second Halloween blowjob, because there's 3 more Halloween BJs after this, but they're not nearly as interesting. So I may not even bother talking about those Halloween blowjobs, because they're basically just like I don't even know how to describe them. They just were really, really dull and uninteresting in comparison to the first two Halloween blowjobs, which were cool, I suppose. But yeah, not Halloween Blowjob 3 or 4 or 5. Hold on, Rob's got something else to say. The sparring classes at my dojang is only for black belts. Why? That's not right. That's so wrong. Rob, if I was at your class, I'd have words with your Sabong Nim. What if you had a yellow belt at your class who was like a fully grown adult and he wanted to spar, but you got a black belt who was like 5 years old and he didn't want to spar? Would they swap them around and let like the yellow belt spar and the black belt kid maybe not spar? My senseis still tell me kicks are too wide and they have to remind me every time to kick higher and to snap the kick. How high could you say you, I don't know, let's take a front kick. How high can you say you can front kick? Give or take. Would you say you'll be able to like kick head height, your head? And how tall are you as well? That would probably shed some light. As you answer that, bear with me. I am maximum height is torso. Okay. What about side kicks and roundhouse kicks? How high can you kick with those? I think I hear my cats again. They want to come in. So I'm not being rude here, Rob. I'm just allowing you a chance to... Wait a minute. How would you get back in? Cheeky so-and-so. Stomach and ribs. Ultimately, though, your kicks don't necessarily need to be any higher, because if you can deliver a very powerful kick low section and you can do damage with that low kick, you don't necessarily need to kick any higher. Realistically speaking, because you can get the job done kicking low section. And if you were to say kick higher, then it's going to put you at more risk, or risk of harm, of being taken down or countered. What's your typical class format like as well, Rob? Pumpkin. And Rob, have you ever been off to a competition called Halloween Blowjob? I have to be honest, actually, my left leg, I can. It's weird because in my training now, I was out training. Separate classes for coloured belts and black belts. Okay. How do you find that? Are you happy training and sparring with other coloured belts, or would you rather spar and train with the black belt grades? Actually, doesn't taste too bad. No, maybe not that one. That actually tastes a bit gross. Coloured belts stretch. Do push-ups, sit-ups, forms, combination kicks, self-defense, and board breaking. Okay. When I was doing TKD, the typical class format was somewhat similar, like warm-ups, stretches, what's called kihon, which is like the basic kind of techniques you do up and down the hall. Then it usually broke for sparring or homsi or self-defense. kind of ending on those. And that was generally the paradigm that was going on. Hello, other person in the chat room. Yes. But yeah, Rob, you haven't even answered the question. Have you ever been to a competition called Halloween Blowjob? Because that's what I was talking about. 2012, I did, and that was the actual name of the competition, Halloween Blowjob. I couldn't believe it. It was like, it shocked me, truly. No, I have not. Okay, Rob, I'm going to ask you a serious question. Are you sitting comfortably? No, that's not a serious question. I'm just asking you. Are you sitting comfortably? Because I'm not going to ask you this question until you're sitting comfortably. And you probably already know what the question's going to be. Yes, good. Okay, you're sitting comfortably. Rob, would you like to go to a competition called Halloween Blowjob? Bearing in mind, the only thing it's got related to Halloween is the fact that the competition's in October. No. Oh, wait, no, you said no because you haven't been to the competition. But if it was given to you as an opportunity, if somebody said, Rob, there's this amazing competition up in the north of, well, I would say England, but in your case, the north of the United States, as far north as the United States as you can get, like right on the Canadian border. And they said there's a competition there called Halloween Blowjob. It's in October. It's got pumpkins. It's got fancy dress. It's got skeletons and devils. It's got a guy wearing a black suit with yellow stripes with a sword going, would you go to it? For shits and giggles? Because I did. Not to the north, like the Canadian border, but north of England. And I got kicked in the balls for it as well. I was very upset. Yeah, I gave my groin guard to the other member of Gemini when he was sparring because he didn't bring his own sparring gear, because clearly if you're going to go and do fighting or sparring, you're going to bring your own gear. This guy didn't. So I let him borrow my groin guard. As soon as he finished sparring, it was me who was going to go up and do my sparring. And this guy, he had my groin guard. And he went, where's your groin guard back? And it was all like dripping with sweat and it stank. And I'm like, I'm not wearing that. So I had a choice. I could say, okay, I could either wear this groin guard and probably get an infection, or I could rogue it and spar with no groin guard and risk getting hammered in the balls. And I chose to go for the latter. And I did my first spar, I won it. So I went through to the next round, did my second spar, and I was up against this big fat guy. Well, actually, that's a bit uncharitable. He wasn't a big fat guy. He was just large, and he was broad, and he was muscular, and squat, and stout. And because he had so much muscle, he was slow. And as you can see, I mean, I'm not the most muscular kind of guy. I'm generally quite skinny. So I was like, I'm going to use my speed against him, and I can probably beat him with my speed. So this guy went to do a roundhouse kick against me, midsection, much like you said, towards like the stomach or torso. So I was literally just going to pivot on my left foot and do a back kick. And that's one of my favorite counters. One of the best counters you can do to a roundhouse kick to the stomach or the chest is a back kick. They just flow, both techniques. But my downfall was the fact that my back kick was quicker than his roundhouse kick. So this is him, this is me. He went to do his roundhouse kick. I then spun to do my back kick. And as I went, his roundhouse kick slammed up into my balls. It literally went straight up there and it actually like pushed me up. It was painful at the time, but I remember thinking, actually, I can probably continue sparring. And it was only like a few seconds after that, suddenly the ball crush hit me. And my vision went black. I saw stars. Apparently my color just drained from my face immediately. I was really sweaty and I just collapsed on the floor. And the ref came over and he was like, are you okay? And I could hardly speak. And it was such a horrific dull, strange pain. But even now, I can't even properly describe it. It was so unique, but it was so horrible at the same time. And that's what happened to me at this event. All thanks because the other member of Gemini didn't bring his groin guard, and I was having to suffer the consequences of his negligence, basically. So anyway, I was basically on the sideline, like kneeling down, changing between kneeling down and being on all fours. I mean, I thought I was honestly going to be sick. And the ref was like, I'll give you like 2 minutes. And I remember even when he said that, I looked at him and it's like, I'm not going to be done in 2 minutes. I'm going to be just wasted, absolutely out for it. So there's no way I can continue this. I can't even stand. Anyway, at the end of the 2 minutes, ref came over to me again and he was like, okay, your 2 minutes are up. What's a crack? What's a verdict? And I said, I'm going to have to forfeit. So anyway, he's like, okay, fair enough. Other guy wins. It's like, great. Thanks a lot for that. All I've got from this spar is just crushed groin. And I feel sick. I feel like I'm going to be sick because you couldn't bring your own goddamn frigging groin guard. So I now have to suffer because you didn't bring your groin guard. And you had to wear my groin guard, which you've now got covered in cock snot and sweat, and it smells. And I'm not wearing that again. I'm going to throw it in the bin when I get home. And I think I did. When I got home and everything's like I've recovered properly, I did throw that in the bin. I was like, each time I looked at it, I was like, I don't want to wear this thing. So I threw it in the bin and I got myself a new one. So it was a waste of money. But that being said, the rest of that competition, I remember at the end of that sparring thing, they had all the sparrers lined up and they wanted to take like a big group photo of all the sparrers. And all the sparrers looked happy. All the sparrers looked cool, except me. And I was on the end, looking down at the floor, and there was a photo of me somewhere. I don't think I've still got it. And I've just got this completely yellow face because the blood had drained from my face, and my head was spinning, my head was swelling. I couldn't stand properly. I had this throbbing ache down there. I appreciate that's a real sick hand gesture, but I couldn't think straight. I could barely stand. And as soon as that photo was done, I just went straight over to where the rest of the Gemini team were, and I just collapsed on the floor. And I was lying on the floor for ages. That kind of went. Then on top of that, I had to drive the team back down south from Bradford, and I had to drive like almost cross-legged, or at least with my legs kind of like crushed up like that, trying to operate the car pedals because it was so agonizing. And the real pain was not so much later on. It wasn't really in the groin. It was like in my kidneys. I felt most of the discomfort in my kidneys. So I was like driving like this, all hunched up, wanting to just get home so I could, I don't know, just roll into bed, I suppose. And the guy the other team member who I lent my groin guard to, he was like, are we going to go to the pub? And it was like, no, I want to go home. And that kind of made a few rounds on like the local social media with those people that I was in contact with at the time. But I remember then the next competition that I came to do, which was early 2013 or prepping for early 2013, the same guy wanted to come along to that. And I'd have been happy for him to have done so. I remember actually saying to him, please, I'm not going to supply any protective equipment to you. If you want to come and spar, great, but buy your own stuff and bring your own stuff, because I'm not being fucking kicked in the balls again, or anything else for that matter. And as soon as I told him that, he was like, oh, can't do it now. I was like, you're only saying that because I've told you to buy your own shit. Own your shit. Don't come to me. I learned a lot about leadership that day. It's like, you can give a man a fish, feed him for a day, or you can teach a man to fish and you can feed him for life. And I think what I learned that day was, let's try and empower other team members and let them take that responsibility for themselves. And people like that. People like taking responsibility for themselves, generally speaking. So I felt as though I did learn that from that horrible, horrific experience. But at least I got one over on him, because what I did the night before we were due to compete, bearing in mind this is before I even got kicked in the balls, I got his trainer, I got some E45 cream, which I don't even remember where the E45 cream came from. It was just there. We were sleeping in the lounge of this creepy cottage that we were staying in. The competition organizers were like, yeah, come and stay at our house. And it's like, yeah, okay, great. So yeah, say, pretend this is his shoe. I got the E45 cream and I like squirted the E45 cream into his shoe. Not to the brim, but enough to kind of, I don't know, quarter fill it, I suppose. And I left it with his other shoes. Kind of forgot about it. Next day, woke up, we were getting ourselves ready to go to a competition venue. And I saw this guy, he was standing there with one shoe on, looking at his other shoe, and he was like, had tissue, and he was trying to scoop out all this white stuff. Now you think tissue and white stuff, come on. We're all men here. We know where that can lead to. We know where our minds go. But he was like scooping out all the E45, and he turned to me and was like, "You're real funny, Sam. Yeah, put an E45 in my shoe. Real funny." And yeah, actually, it was funny. It was immature, yeah, very, but still very funny. Yeah, so those were the Halloween blowjobs. Like I said, there were about 3 other Halloween blowjobs out of that, but those were kind of like, I think Halloween blowjob number 3 was 2015, and that was 100 rounds of sparring that the Gemini team did with a team in the Midlands for Birmingham Children's Hospital. But we only called that Halloween blowjob because, again, it was in October. It had no other relation to anything else, and it was not fancy dress. It was not gimmicky like the first 2 Halloween blowjobs. So when I think of Halloween blowjob, I only think about the one in 2007, which is that fancy dress event that I put on with Shiva Soviet, and the competition in 2012 up in Yorkshire, where I took the Gemini team, and we got stuck on the M1 for about, I don't know how many hours. We were stuck on the M1 for absolutely ages. It was all gridlocked. And we had like this little magazine of porn or something. We put it on the car window and stuck it with blue tack. And this Chinese guy came along from his car, and he kept walking by ours and kept like trying to peer in. So he was obviously trying to look at this magazine. Yeah. So those are the Halloween blowjob events. So like I said, sorry, it's not a sexualized story, except how I got the title for Halloween blowjob of finding this video when I was like at college, and it just stuck in my mind, and I wanted to turn Halloween blowjob into like some sort of punk song, which never materialized. But I put Halloween blowjob to good use because I called a fancy dress event it, and also there was a competition called Halloween blowjob, so it had a happy ending, and it was Halloween time, so it kind of has something to do with Halloween, I suppose. That being said, I feel that has brought us to the end of the Halloween blowjob saga. Now, I've got a question for you before I leave you guys. Have you enjoyed learning about Halloween blowjob? And you can write your answer in the thing down below. You're more than welcome to say no, in which case the next live stream I've got a real corker for you, because I think the next live stream we can talk about the whale in Gaza. There was a whale which was beached up in Gaza, and sadly it had a tragic end. Actually, in all seriousness, I don't think that's actually even nice to joke about, because I actually like whales. I like animals. I'm a big advocate for animal rights, and I don't think any whale being beached up and then killed is something to really laugh about. So I'm going to retract that, actually. I'll find some other thing to talk about for next live stream. That being said, going back to the here and now, let's be a bit more mindful. I hope you have enjoyed learning about Halloween blowjob 2007 fancy dress and Halloween blowjob 2012 competition, which involved a drive to a creepy cottage and being kicked in the balls and putting E45 cream into somebody's shoe. Yeah. God, the things we used to do. That being said, guys, I'll love you and leave you. Stay safe. train hard and keep eating pumpkins for Halloween. Because Halloween is the best season around. Except, no, actually, no, there is no better season. Halloween's the best one. Enjoy yourself, guys. Rob, peace. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.